to you live via Facebook streaming, YouTube streaming, and also via Skype. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming from wherever you are connecting. Soon, some of our books will be available free for download through our website, which is in process, and anyone through that website can download these books free of cost. It is our commitment to you. Whatever comes for this in return is manifold. So probably within a few weeks we will make it open to the public. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, living in reality. 2 sutras are there. First, just as hen mothers her chicks, mother your knowing and doing. The second sutra is, which is very deep. This requires a deep understanding. But this is very simple. But at the level of the mind, we do not understand it. In truth, bondage and freedom are related. Bondage and freedom are related. How they are related? They are not opposite. Head and tail are related to one another. If I ask you what is freedom, you will define it in relation to bondage. That which is not bondage is freedom. And that which is not freedom, that is bound by so many norms, is bondage. We cannot define one with the other. You cannot define day without night and night without day. Morning without evening, evening without morning. But there is a way of defining it. To define what is cold and what is hot, you may say that when you put your finger in it, you will know it is warm, hot. No, this is not the correct criteria. The scientific criteria is the temperature, the degree. They are the degrees of the same phenomena. When you are going to know what is hot and cold, you are using one device, which is temperature device, thermometer. And on that scale, it is the temperature that will decide whether it is hot or cold. Hot or cold. If a temperature is 100 degrees Celsius, you will say it is boiling. When it is in minus, you will say it is ice cold. You can experience it, but the criteria is the temperature. They are just degrees of the same phenomena. If the same water that is ice cold, you put on the fire and keep the temperature gauge there, you will realize as the process continues, the temperature begins to rise. Temperature begins to rise. There is no other way. In the same way, as the turmoil within, what is happening in the pot, there is a turmoil happening. The water molecules is moving in an elliptical orbit. As they get hot, they move up. As they get cold, as they are cold, they remain settled. What does this denote? When there is calmness, it is settled. The moment heat comes in, there comes a turmoil. The molecules of energy start moving in an elliptical way, and you define that state as anger, violence, by different names. What is hot and what is cold? They are degrees of the same phenomena. Calmness and turmoil, disturbance, anger, they are also different degrees of the same phenomenon. If there is in one bucket cold water and in the other hot water, you put in both your hands. One hand will feel hot and the other will cold. What will you feel? The chemical structure of the water will not change. The difference will only be of the degree. And if at first you cool down both your hands on ice and then you put into the hot water and the cold water, what will happen? You will again feel a difference. Your cold hand will now feel more hot in the hot water than before. And if the other hand has become cold, much cooler than the cold water, then what will happen? The water will now feel hot. You will not feel it as cool. It is relative. There are degrees of differences, but the phenomena is same. You put your hand on the ice, then you put on the room temperature water, the water at the room temperature. Will you feel the water cold? So what happens if there is calmness within, the calmness of a Buddha, the dancing? Then ordinary circumstance and situation and the one that is of turmoil, you will see the difference. Tantra says bondage and liberation, bondage and freedom, sansar, world, and moksha, liberation, are not two things, but a relative phenomena of the same happening, same thing. So Tantra is unique in that way, and this is reality. In reality, this is how you see things. Tantra says that you have to be liberated, not from bondage. You have to be liberated from bondage as well as freedom as well. This is what Krishna says, Sitoshna Samadukha, one who is equipoised in heat and cold. Neither the heat disturbs nor the cold disturbs. Neither riches nor poverty disturbs. There is equanimity. Then that is transcendence. So Tantra is transcendence, it is unique, it says you have to leave both. Many times I have given again and again the example of the coin that has two sides, head and tail. In order to bargain it for some commodity that you need, for anything, you have to transcend beyond both head and tail. You have to give both head and tail. You cannot keep one for the other. That is what transcendence means. That is what equanimity means. You are not disturbed by heat or cold. For you, anger and calmness are two different phenomena of the same thing. The difference is only of, let us use a common word, degrees. When the temperature, the inner temperature is below a certain degree, even your calmness will be of a different degrees. Your calmness can be a disturbed calmness. Your calmness can be a saddened one. Your calmness can be a dancing calmness. Dancing calmness. In the same way, your anger can be a difference of degrees. You can get angry at your children to correct something, or you can get angry out of unconsciousness. A Raman gets angry out of consciousness as a technique to correct something. When you get angry with your children, are you really angry? It is a device, it is a technique, a method to correct something. When a mother punishes the child that you will not get the food today, it is of a different quality, different nature. It is a device to correct something. Tantra says bondage and liberation, sansar and moksha are not two things but a relative phenomena of the same thing. So Tantra is unique. It says that you have to be liberated not only from the bondage but from liberation as well. If you cannot go beyond, like you like head, you are facing the head, you have to be liberated both from head and tail. Unless you are liberated from both, you are not really liberated. And only when you are liberated, you enter into a different realm. So the first thing, do not try to go against anything, because you will move to something which belongs to it. It looks opposite, but it is not. The head and tail looks opposite to one another. The world and the moksha, the other world, looks opposite to one another, but they are not. It's only the difference of degrees. Do not move from sex to celibacy. They are the two sides of the same coin. If you are trying to move from sex to celibacy, your celibate state will be nothing but an expression of sexuality. Do not move from greed to the state of no greed. You have to leave all that is dualistic, the duality of the mind. Going beyond the duality of the mind is the state of no mind. You cannot leave greed and leave the opposite of it. That is why it is a traditional teaching to be non-greedy. It gives you a profit motive in it. Do not drink because you are told not to drink because you will get in the next life. This is how it happens. If you leave greed, you will get much in the other world. If you leave greed, you will gain much in the other world. Things like these are told. In a way, it may be good as a device, but anything that you use as a device is misused. Those who are greedy for money, but the greed has changed. From money of this world, it has moved to the other world. That they will be influenced by this. They will be motivated. And they will be ready to leave many things to gain something tomorrow. But the motive to gain remains the same. Do not create opposite poles. When the opposite pole, if you look at the magnet, when the magnetic field, the current moves from one pole to the other, then that is known as magnetic field. All opposites are related to one another. They are degrees of the same phenomena. If you become aware of this, you will say that both poles are same, North Pole and South Pole. What is the difference between North Pole and South Pole? What is the difference between higher and lower? The wall is there, high and low. The only difference you can say, lower is the beginning of the higher and higher is the culmination, the ultimate in the process of lower. When lower continues, it becomes higher, but higher and lower are related to one another by a field, that bond, that connection we call as wall. The North and South Pole are connected to one another. Because of that, there is a magnetic field. The North and South Pole, they are connected to one another through the lines, geographical lines, the meridians. Some moving from North Pole to South Pole, they determine the longitude and latitude of a particular place. So, the world and liberation, they are connected to one another. Between them, there is a difference of degree, and there are longitude and latitude that determine at what level, what is your location, what is the location of this particular city where you live. It will be determined only because of the longitude and latitude, which is connected to the North and South Pole. And where you can move now, sex and celibacy both are the same. So where is one to move? If greed and non-greed are same, If violence and non-violence are same, where has one to move? If the world and not world, the other world are same, where would you go? Will there be any place for you to be? There is nowhere to move. The movement ceases. Wherever you are, that is where your temple, that is where your religious place is. You think going to holy places, you leave the world and go to the holy places. If you go beyond the duality, wherever you are, that is the holy place. You have made your heart a holy place and your words the scripture, because these are the outcome of non-dualistic state. You cannot desire anything because all desires will be the same. The difference, just as the cold water and hot water, the difference is only of degrees. Desire for this world or that world is only the difference of degrees. What can you desire? What can you desire? Sometimes when you ask the people, they say, and if you ask them, what do you really mean by desire? The desire is based in them, this root, this seed of desire in them. If they are greedy, they desire the other, non-greedy. If they are sexual, obsessed with sex, they will desire to be celibate, to go beyond sex. How to be beyond sex? Because they are miserable in their sex. That's why they want to go beyond. They have seen the misery in greed, so they want to go beyond that. But this desire to be celibate is based, rooted, evolves out of their sexuality. How to get out of this world? The world is too much on them because they have not understood its crux. They are too much burdened and they are clinging it too much. So that's why they want to come out of that. Because remember, the world cannot burden you unless you cling to it. If you do not cling to anything, it will not burden. It will not create bondage for you. Your attachment, your clinging to this will create bondage. The burden is in your head. You feel that this is a problem. So where does the problem really lie? It is in your head. Not because of the burden. You think that you cannot stay with this person in life. You are fed up. You cannot take on. So where is the problem? The problem lies in the head. The problem lies in your understanding. Change that. Allow it to undergo a process, and then you will not be carrying it. And they are carrying the whole world within. That's why it is said, be in the world, but do not let the world be within you. You can eat to live. Eat to live because eating is important to live. Or you can live to eat. The two different approaches. You can be in the world because it is necessary. You have to work. In order to live in the world, you have to have the place to live, you have to have a job, and all these things. So these are simply the necessities for you to live and continue your work that you intend doing. What is your role? Once God has hidden Himself and manifested you, now you have to hide yourself and manifest godliness out of you. For that, you need certain things. You need a job, you need a house, you need a thing. So you have a proper facility where you can do your efforts and strive to manifest the unmanifest out of you. Then these things will not bother you. So the burden you are carrying in your head, not because of the burden, but because of the you that you are carrying, and everybody is carrying the whole world within them, then they get burdened. And in this experience of misery, there arises a new desire for the opposite. So you are burdened by the problems at home, so another desire arises to go out of the house or live somewhere else. So then they start hankering for the opposite. They are running after money. How now? They are running after meditation, but they are running after the meditation or money is the same thing. The running has to stop. You don't need to go anywhere to meditate. They were running after something in this world. Now they are running after something of in that other world. But the running remains. And running is the problem, not anything else. The object is irrelevant. Desire is the problem. And the desire occupies your mind. And it grows into your mind and becomes a problem. What you desire is meaningless. The desire is the problem. And you go on changing the objects. Today you desire A, tomorrow you desire B. And because you have not focused on the basic problem, you are fed up with this person, so you are fed up with A, so you move to B. But you did not see why you had been fed up or problem came, because when you were with person A or with this A situation, you are the same. You do not want to change yourself. And then you keep on moving, running. You desire, that is you. And that remains the same. The desire, bondage. You desire bondage, then you are frustrated with it. You want it, this house, this family, these children, then you get frustrated with it. Then you desire something else. So you cannot desire liberation. You cannot desire bondage. Desire is actually bondage. You cannot desire liberation. Desire is bondage. So you cannot desire liberation. When desire ceases, when the state of desiring mind ceases, liberation is. whatsoever causing you the problems in your mind, you are ready to remove that situation, change that situation. But nothing changes within you. So that's why you remain being kicked like a football between two players. So liberation and bondage are two players that keep on kicking the football off your desiring mind. Desire is bondage, and there is nothing that you can desire. When desire ceases, liberation comes. These words are only for those who are terrified by the universe. These words are bondage. These words of bondage and liberation are for those who are terrified by the universe. The universe is a reflection of the minds. That's why we use the individual mind and the cosmic mind. You have to come out of the individual mind of duality to enter in the cosmic mind. Universe is the reflection of the minds. You see the world as your mind is. Mind is confused, you will see confusion everywhere. Mind is silent, liberated, you will see everywhere freedom. Whatsoever you see in this universe is a reflection, and reflection always looks like a bondage. It means, bondage means, problem means a reflection of your mind. It looks like liberation, again it is your reflection. As you see many suns in water, from one sun, so you see bondage and liberation. There is a tranquil, a lake. If the lake is tranquil, you will see as every lake will reflect sun. And if the surface of the water is waving, you will not see the image of the sun as it is. You will see it shimmering. As you see many suns in water, from one sun you see bondage and liberation. The sun rises and there are many ponds, some dirty, some clean, some big, some small, beautiful and ugly. All these things are there, the qualities of the pond. Your mind is a pond. One moment it may be beautiful, next moment ugly. One moment it is dirty, next moment it is pure. One moment it will broadcast, it will exaggerate a situation, next moment it will compress. So dirty and pure, big and small, beautiful and ugly, all these are the states of the pond where the sun is reflecting. The sun is the reality, one sun. Reflecting through dirty water will look dirty. The same sun looking through the clean water will look clean. The sun reflecting through the waving water, waving surface will look waving. It will not look stationary. And one sun reflects in many ponds. One who goes on counting the reflections, one who goes on counting the reflections will think there are many, many suns. And sun keeps on changing every moment. You keep on saying that your moods keeps on changing. The sun is the same, the reality is the same. When the sun reflects, You are seeing the reflection of the sun through the dirty or muddy water of the lake. Maybe it may be opaque, and if the surface of the lake or the water is covered with the creeps, with the plants that grew, that mushrooms on their own bushes, they will not reflect the sun. So at times your mind becomes like an opaque surface and does not reflect the reality. It gets beclouded. Then you start cleaning up. Sometimes you see a place where water is accumulated, the moss gathers on its surface, the unwanted plants start growing and cover the entire surface of the lake. That becomes opaque. You do not see the clear reflection of sun. So this is the way the mind moves. One moment your mind is muddy, next moment it is clear. So accordingly, the same situation, which is like the sun, will reflect itself. Sometimes the surface of the lake is wide, sometimes maybe small. Maybe if you take a cup and try to see the reflection of it, you will see a very narrow, small reflection of it. The moment the horizon, the surface, the reflecting surface becomes large, then the reflection will be much bigger. So is the situation of your mind. The more clear, the more expanded is the area of your mind or its capacity. You will see things. That's why it is said some people have a very clear, a broad image of something, a particular situation. They can see beyond time and space. Then it is beautiful and ugly. All these are states of the mind. And one sun reflected in many ponds. One who goes on counting the reflections will think there are many, many suns, but he will skip this. The condition of the lake, the reflecting surface. One who looks not into the reflection, but into the reality, will see one. Then he will try to correct the surface. The world, as you look at it, it reflects you. It's like you have a different, both two people are walking, husband and wife, walking, holding hands in hand with one another. And both of them have, sun is bright, and both of them are using shades, but the color of the shades is different because your choice is different than that of your spouse. You may want an amber shape, somebody else, your spouse, may want a bluish. So both of them will be looking at the outside world through their own shades that they have on their eyes. And the shades are, why did this shade came? Your mind decided that you want to have a light blue shade, and somebody else's mind decided to have an amber shade. So mind decided. And maybe at times you have more than one sunglasses. Sometimes you are using an amber shade. Next time you are using a greenish shade. are different shades. So whatever glasses you have on at that moment, the world, the reflection will be guided by that. Whatsoever, when you are meeting me, whatever kind of a shade you have it on, that will reflect me. I am not changed. I have a particular color of top, which is kind of a light gold. If you are using a shade which has a blue tint, my top will appear to you different. Your spouse who is using an umber shade will look at me, my appearance different. These are simple things, but simple things we do not understand. We want to be interested in more complicated things that we see around. One who goes on counting, so if your wife, your spouse has to write what color top Tao is wearing, so she will have her own explanation, you will have your own explanation. So the reality will reflect according to the conditioning. The shade refers to the conditioning of the looking media. Your mind is the window through which you are looking. You have a window in your, you have gone to a different place to visit for holidays. You went to a hotel where you were staying, you open the window has a shade. So that will alter the reality for you according to its own image. So your mind has different shades, just as you may have more than one glasses. So whatever glasses you are having at that moment, the reality will reflect to you conditioned by that. Hinduism, Islam, Christianity are the shades also. When you are looking through the shades of Islam, you will look at the world differently than with the Hindu shade. All these things we have to understand and look at the things in its reality, not as it is. You cannot look at the sun directly, but you have to look at its reflection. What is reflection? My actions or my reflections. Through my actions, the way I speak, the way I interact in a particular situation are the examples of reflections. And then that time, if you have a different shade on your eyes, looking window, then the same thing, you will look at it differently. I keep on giving again and again an example. The three people belonging to the different profession went to visit a place. The place that was a waterfall between the two hills. One was a politician. What a criminal waste of nature's resources. His window, his reflecting media gives him that understanding. The one who was an architect, what a beautiful example of nature's architect. One was a poetic mind. Oh, what a beautiful example of nature's beauty has converge in its pristine beauty. The window, you are seeing the same thing. Both of you, you and your spouse are sitting in a restaurant. Will they have one opinion about a dish that has been served to you, or the decor that you have in your cabin where you are having the dinner? No, because we are two individuals, and then conflict, argument begins. Instead of that, we have to understand that we are two different individuals with two different frame of minds, two different windows to look at the outside. Just experiment one day. Go with your family to a restaurant. A same dish. Ask everybody the taste of it. No one conclusive evidence description will come of that taste, except the word tasting nice. If you ask them to describe it in its detail, no one can give one common explanation. I have heard when Mullah Nasruddin and his wife were fishing and the place was restricted. Only license holders could fish there. Suddenly a policeman appeared. So Mullah's wife said, Mullah, you have the license, so you have the license. So you run away. Meanwhile, I will escape. So Mullah started running. He ran and ran, and the policeman followed. Of course, Mullah left his wife there, and the policeman followed Mullah because he was running. Mullah ran and ran until he felt that now his heart would explode. But that time the police caught hold of him. The policeman was also sweating and said, where is your license? Mullah produced his papers. The policeman looked at them and they were okay. He said, if you had the license, why were you running, Mullah? Why did you run away? You know what Mullah said? I am going to the doctor, and he says, after every meal, you run a mile. So Mullah was running because the doctor said, after every meal, you run a mile. So policeman said, okay, you saw me running after you, chasing you, yelling, why you didn't stop? Mullah said, I thought that maybe that you may be going to the same doctor. Imagine this situation. So because Mullah was running ahead of and policeman was following him, chasing, so policeman naturally asked, if you had the papers and everything, why you did not stop and show me the papers? Mullah said, doctor has said after every meal you have to run 1 mile. So I was running. So why you did not stop me? Mullah said, I thought that you may be going to the same doctor. That's why both of us are running in the same direction. It is logical. This is what is happening. Whatsoever you see all around you is mere reflection of you than of anything, any real thing there. So it was a reflection of what was going on within Mullah. You look at yourself mirrored everywhere. The moment you change, the reflection changes. The moment you change the shade on your eyes, reflection changes. The moment you become totally silent, the whole world becomes silent with you. The world is not a bondage. Bondage is the reflection, and reflection is the outcome of the reflecting media. The world is not liberation. Liberation is again a reflection of the shade that you are having. A Buddha finds the whole world is liberation, nirvana. A Krishna finds the whole world celebrating in ecstasy. The birds, the rivers, the flowers, the breeze is bliss. There is no misery. But Tantra says that whatsoever you see is a reflection. Whatsoever you see, Tantra is giving an explanation. Whatsoever you see around you is the reflection that is coming out of the reflecting media that your mind is. Unless all two things, the seeing you see is a reflection, unless all seeing disappears, only then mirror can be seen in its beauty. Unless all seeings disappear and only mirror is seen, nothing reflecting in it, that state is truth. When all reflections disappear, how can reflection disappear on the surface of the lake? That is the process. Because when the moment you see something, something gets activated in you. Tantra says whatsoever you see is a reflection unless all seeing disappears and only the mirror remains empty and nothing is reflected. That state is truth. But how to do that? Let us end it here and let us start it. I'll begin tomorrow in the continuation of this same. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.